All right, the super simple mantle. This was a really fun project to do. Why don't y'all come on in and have a seat there, and I'll talk to y'all about this one. So like I said, this is a really simple build. We started out, this took us 2 days to do with the painting and everything. The first day, we really didn't know if we were gonna be able to even work, but the forecast has been saying it's gonna be raining for like 2 weeks. So I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna just not work. So I went to Academy. I bought this big 16 foot by 8 tent that we can set up so we can work in the rain, and we put the material on support stands so it doesn't get wet, all the tools under it. It worked out really good for this. And one other thing I thought of is we could also use that big canopy that I bought. We could use that in the summer too, for when it's really hot. So that's a plus. So back to the mantle, I did post on YouTube a question on my channel just to see if anybody had any ideas about how you could mount any kind of framing for this mantle to the tile, and I got a lot of good advice on there. So thank you if you were one of the ones that answered me, because as much as I learn or as much as I teach in my YouTube channel, or try to, I actually learn more just from the comments and just from talking to people who I meet. So that's actually pretty cool. But a lot of people said, you know, use toggle bolts, and that was kind of my initial thing too. But when I got here, like how every job goes, there was unexpected things. I started drilling behind the tile, and what we found was that there's brick behind here. So behind this whole thing, and then I talked to the homeowner, and she said, yeah, there's brick all back there. It's not just tile. So that actually worked out better for us, because I was able to use 3/8 Tapcon lag bolts, and we went ahead and drilled through the tile with a tile bit. Then we we cleaned up the hole where we drilled through. Then we went ahead and put power grab onto our framing lumber, and we just cranked those lag bolts down into that brick, and it is in there. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere. I used 4 lag bolts on the top mantelpiece here, and then we did 2 on each leg of the mantle. So there's a total of 8 on this, holding this thing in place, along with that power grab. That stuff is rated for tile. I was walking through Home Depot, I picked it up, and I started reading the backs of all the Loctites, and this one said tile. Let's go ahead and put it on there just for added peace of mind, just to keep this thing in position as indefinitely. This thing is not going anywhere with those Tapcon bolts though. Once we got the framing done, then what we did was we just built legs for this thing. So we did the 3.5 inch depth on the leg, but then when we added the face, that made it come out to 4.25. So the whole depth of the leg is 4.25. And then after that, we wrapped a baseboard around it. It was just a 1x6, and we went ahead and capped that with what we call a base cap, or to be more specific, it's a molding we use very often that's called PM5. And this whole thing is constructed from finger joint pine. From there, once we got the 2 legs done, and then we got the base on with the base cap, then we went ahead and put this board in. This board right here is kind of like the mantle support board, is what I would call it. It is sitting on both of the legs. And that mantle support board, as I call it, is 6.5 inches in depth. And again, it's just a 1x material. And that board right there measures 82.5 inches. So this whole mantle is under 8 foot in length. Then after we did that, we went ahead and wrapped the legs with a little baby cove crown, and that completed the trim for the legs. After the cove molding, what we did was we went ahead and built a little bit more framing onto our mantle, onto the top mantle support board. Just that way, so whenever we installed this big mantle box piece, which is like the main piece that the crown molding wraps around, what we could do then was have something to screw into from the bottom of the mantle support board, and then we could also screw in with trim head screws into that framing. Then we wrapped this 5.5 inch cove crown molding, or as it's known here by a lot of suppliers, 50 cove is what that's called. And it's a 5.5 inch, just a real nice cove crown molding with a really nice little step down detail at the bottom. After that, that was pretty much it. Then we had this 1x12 mantle shelf top that we ripped down, and that actually came out to 9.5 inches. And overall, I think this just is a real classic look, and it just looks amazing to me. So once we had that whole build done, everything installed, what I did was I came back with my trim router and a chamfer bit, and I put a 3/8 chamfer on each leg of the mantle, and I did a 5-inch reveal from the bottom, and I also did a 3-inch reveal from the top, and that goes for both legs. And for the actual mantle legs, we didn't do any miter because we knew we were going to put that that chamfer in it, that 3/8 chamfer. So we didn't want to miter that and then have to route out our miter. I have experimented with that and I don't like the way that it looks. I'd rather just do the butt joint, nail those together, put some adhesive in there, make sure it's not going to go anywhere. So that way I can have a full board on the face of each leg that I can really take a chunk out of with the router. Once we got to that point, we did all of our usual prep stuff. We sanded, we filled, we did everything, orbital, sanding sponge. Then I actually tried this product, it's a primer that we used called, it's from Zinsser, and it's called shellac based primer. It was recommended to me and I was really happy with it. It is an oil based primer, but I think I am going to start using that shellac based primer because it gave me the smoothest finish and grain fill that I have ever had. So I'm going to start using that and experimenting with it. And then from there, we did end up spraying this with a Pro Classic, and I just used a Graco, my Graco airless sprayer that I always use with a 210 FFLP tip, and I got a really nice finish with it. I'm not really a big fan of spraying Pro Classic. I don't think it hangs that good, but I just took my time with it and worked with it, and I put 2 coats on here. So it should be good to go. And whenever this was designed, this whole concept with the big tiles up here and then the smaller tiles down here with the more decorative tiles, what they did was they gave us a 12-inch reveal all the way around so we could frame out around this. And I think it looks great. Now the fire code does say that you need to be 12 inches from there. So this is what they left us with, and that's the reason that these proportions are bordered like that. We got 12 inches on top, bottom, and left and right sides. All right, so that's gonna do it for this small little project. This was definitely a fun one, real classic looking mantle. Great proportions laid out. Hopefully you learned something from this video, and definitely I did going through this process. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see y'all next time. Take care.